Do you remember your very first date? Was it awkward? Was it fun? Was it memorable? Or was it a complete zong? Hi guys, it's Angel, your favorite Chindo, and you're back with me again in this channel. So today I'll be uncovering some first dates do's and don'ts, and I'll be giving you tips on how to not be awkward on the first dates and some common mistakes you should stay away from. So let's get straight into it. So the very first do for today is dress the part, dress the occasion. So when you're going on a date, this will be kind of like your first impression, so of course you want to dress appropriately. And it really also depends on the scenarios as well, because if you're just going out for a coffee date in the neighborhood where you know it's pretty chill, then don't overly dress up in like a dress and heels, girl. Like, no, then just go for that casual outfit, but always strive to look your best. But if the plan is like going rock climbing somewhere, of course, do not wear a skirt. Like, this is just common logic, but some people don't do it. So this is why I'm putting it out here. Or maybe if you're going for a fancy dinner, then you can dress up, put on makeup and wear heels and basically wear a dress. And let me know what is your ideal perfect first date, because for me it would probably be dinner and a movie. Even though I know you probably shouldn't go to a movie on your first date, just because then how are you going to talk to each other, right? Which also makes sense, but I just love movies. So probably I would go to like a dinner date. And yeah, that's for the very first thing, dressing the part. And let's go to the second one. The second one is basically being a good listener, okay? Some tips on actually how to be a good listener is when he's talking, actually make eye contact with him. And as well, because if he is telling a story, right, you could do simple things by nodding or like, yeah, I understand. Like, oh, I get that. Yeah. Like, things like that would make him feel that he's heard by you, and basically just making eye contact. Number 3 is actually to plan ahead. Now, I don't have a specific saying where the guy should plan the date. I would love it if the guy plans a date. But for me, what usually happens is I would have literally a list of places that I would want to go to. And I would probably give him like three options, and then he could pick. And that's what I like to do with my friends. But if your friends or him usually have another suggestion, then that's great. Especially we love a proactive man who can plan dates. He'll be like, I'll pick you up on this dinner at this time and dress up nice or something, wear this color or something like that. That would be so hot, honestly. But also him respecting you enough by asking you like, oh, is this okay? Like, is this type of food in your preference, taste, or not? That would be great. But we love a man who is proactive and who can just like, here are some options. Because usually it's the girl who's like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. So when you actually have a proactive man who actually books the place as well, that's a very green flag for me especially. But it does not have to be that specific guy who plans a date. If you're the one who plans a date as well, that's totally okay. There's nothing wrong about it at all. So here are some tips about what location to select on your very first date. But obviously you want to be somewhere that's public, but also a good place where it's not too noisy, where you can try to get to know each other. 1 is a restaurant, 2 is a park. You can walk to the park and just basically walk and talk. And 3rd is as well coffee shops, but try to find coffee shops that are more on the quieter side instead of like somewhere you know would be super crowded and it's going to be very hard to listen to. So a question I have here is, how do you maintain a balance between talking about yourself and asking about them? Well, this is pretty self-explanatory, I would say. Maybe you or him start with asking like, oh, how has your life been going and all that. And when you've clearly said your piece and he definitely doesn't have questions for you anymore, and then there's like a little bit of a pause and you're done saying what you want to say, this is when you can actually ask him back, But what about you? Like, I've talked about what I like to do. What about you? What do you like to do? So whenever you're done with your part and he doesn't really want to, like, he basically asked what he wanted to, and there's just a little small pause, you can ask the question back to him, throw it back to him. And then this is a great way to know that you guys are doing like a 50-50 talk. It doesn't always have to be 50-50 talk. It could be like 60-40, but just not get into the level of you always yapping or he's always yapping, you know. Especially when if you're on a date where, thank God, I've never experienced going on a date where the guy just always talks. Because, you know, if a guy always talks or you always talk, you kind of also feel like, ew, you know, on the date. Because for me, it's like, if I always talk, like, I would want to try to get to know that person as well. Like, instead of me just like yapping all the time, I'll be like, what about you? What about your life? Like, if I really liked someone, I would genuinely ask them like what's going on in their life, because I would care about it, right? But I guess, like, especially if on the date, I've never had this experience, thank God, but I've never been on a date where the guy just constantly always talks about himself and not ask me any questions. That's just never happened to me before, thankfully. But if this does happen to you on a date, then honestly, I would just suggest that you call it a night and just make up like some excuse or something. Just say like you're tired or you have to head home early politely after, I don't know, dinner or anything like that. So what is my ideal first date? Now, I know this is very like so common, so cliche, but I like to do dinner and a movie. Okay, maybe not so much of the movie, because if you're in a movie and you're on your first date, you can't really be able to like try to get to know each other. But I definitely like the concept of a dinner, like just both of you sitting down and eating and trying to get to know each other. I like that. And maybe dinner and a dessert. Okay, so from this dinner, you can definitely see like, what about splitting the bill, or like who's gonna pay? Like, honestly, if you want to be a feminine energy, that in your feminine era, so I would say like, let him pay for the first date. It's always a green flag when a man pays for a first date, just because you know like he has that provider mindset. But as well as, I know there are some of my friends, or like I did this also, but we did also 50-50, but that wasn't on the first date. There's relationships where they're 50-50, and then there's relationships where guys are the providers. And I'm not gonna judge anyone for either like having type of style, but if you want to be a feminine in your feminine era, then the provider mindset in a guy is very important, because when you're gonna get married in the future, of course you want him to be able to provide for you, right? But I guess a lot of guys kind of say like, oh, because we're still dating, we're not like married or like fiance, I don't want to do this. And like, I understand them, but at the same time, like, I'm just saying like, if you really want to attract masculine men, that this is supposed to be how it is. It isn't supposed to be 50-50. Yeah, but for me, dinner and dessert would be good. What I would prefer is, I think sometimes I would feel a little bit guilty if the man had always paid for every single date. So what I like to do is like, yes, I want a provider guy, but at the same time, for me, what feels comfortable for me, everybody has their own comfortability. For me, I of course want a provider, a guy who provides for me, but sometimes I would feel guilty. I know you're not supposed to feel guilty, but I would like to pay for dessert usually, or drinks. Like, you get dinner, I get dessert, or you get lunch, I get drinks, you know? It's just small things, but for me, I would feel much more comfortable if I were to still pay a little bit of something, just because I don't want to entirely depend my finances on a guy. Even if I do like that I have a provider guy, if you know what I mean. So yeah. But let me know what you guys actually like on a first date. Like, what would your ideal first date be? Because for me, it would be dinner and dessert, and the most ideal is he will pick you up, girl. I mean, it depends because in different countries, there's like, maybe you guys have a car, or maybe in a different country, like in a foreign country, you guys just take the MRT. So it really depends. But if it was in my country, then I would have him pick me up in a car. But that's if my lifestyle is in Jakarta, Indonesia. Here in Taiwan, I would probably just meet him there because I do take the public transportation, unless if he has a car, then that's different. Especially when it's you guys finished dinner and you guys are confused like who's gonna pay. Well, if he takes the action to like, no, let me get it, it's okay, then girl, you have to just accept it, okay? Don't feel guilty, don't feel bad. Guys are supposed to typically pay on a first date, okay? But if you obviously know that he's like not really comfortable with like paying for you, maybe you could offer to split the bill. But the most ideal situation would be he would pay on the first date. Yeah. All right, so now that we talked about the do's, let's actually talk about the don'ts. So the very first don't that I have in my mind is do not talk about your exes. Please, okay? You guys have like a long way to go. You can talk about your exes and your lifelong trauma and your experiences, how horrible, blah, 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 blah. Save it. You can save it for like a month later, 2-3 months later, especially if you want to be in your feminine energy. Honestly, you shouldn't even be talking about how badly your ex treated you in the first place, because that then puts it in his mind, oh, she was treated so badly before, so I just have to treat her a little bit nicer to get her to think that I'm such a nice guy. And that's what you don't want to do, honestly. But for me personally, I do think you can uncover like your traumas with your SO in the future, definitely, because I feel like opening up that deep wound is good. But at the same time, for the very first stages of dating, please do not do this, all right? You're gonna like allow him to treat you just a little bit better, just put a little bit more effort than your ex for you to actually be nice and happy, for you to think that he's a nice guy. All right, so don't. Especially when a guy keeps talking about his ex on the first date, that is just such a red flag. Oh, and if you guys want to watch a 12 red flags video in a relationship, you can definitely watch this video. I've made a video about red flags in relationship and also green flags as well. So you can check that out as well if you want to. I know this is a little bit obvious, but please, when you're on a date, don't be glued to your phones. I mean, sometimes when you want to check your phone messages, that's fine, but just make sure you're not like the whole date, you know, actually try to get away from your phone and just try to enjoy the presence with each other and the moments that you guys have. Because if he's always constantly like every notification that pops up, he's just gonna do like that would be so annoying, because you're not actually trying to get to know each other. You're just glued on your phone, and like what is the point of going on a date anyways, right? So please just try to use your phone less, unless if it's like somebody calls you and it's emergency, or like just, you know, like if you're checking it like just several times throughout the date, that's fine. But don't always be like that for 5 minutes. That's such a turn off, honestly. Let me have some tea. Okay, the next one is don't drink too much, or don't even drink at all. Like when you're on a first date, you don't want to be drunk, all right? You do not want to be like that in your first date. It just shows that that's kind of like a little bit irresponsible, I guess. You do not want your date to see you drunk, especially in the first time. Yeah. Just like you wouldn't want to carry like a drunk guy, right? Like in your first date, honestly. Or you don't want the guy to like hold your hair while you're vomiting, you know? Like just don't do that, girl. Like you can have one drink. I mean, everybody has their own alcohol tolerance, but please just don't get drunk. I don't even need to explain why, just don't. Ooh, okay, so there's this question. Why is talking about marriage or having kids too soon a bad idea on a first date. This, oh my God. Like when you are on your first date and the guy already thinks about marrying you, taking you to meet their parents in the first week of dating, you're just like, this guy is sus. Like, why? Like, you been on a date with me once and now I'm supposed to go to your parents for like Christmas dinner this week? Like, no, that's such a bad sign actually, because that's way too fast, and it means that he doesn't actually sees like you thoroughly, you know, like what qualities you have, does it match with his goals or not. And this is the same for you. Like when you are on your first date, do not bring up the marriage topic or kids too quickly, okay? Don't be like, oh, I need to have like 8 kids and I need to get married in a year. Like that will scare people off. Like hold your horses, girl. I mean, like you can say like, oh, I plan in the future to get married, but like just very simple, like I want a serious relationship, I plan to get married and have kids in the future. That's it. Like even if you want to bring that topic up, just say something as simple as that. That's it. You don't need to go into the specifics yet, girl, okay? All right, this question here is very interesting. Should you kiss on the first date? Honestly, I'm not gonna judge, but you do whatever you want, girl. You do whatever you feel that is comfortable for you. I wouldn't say kissing on a first date is good or bad at all. Like I wouldn't judge anyone for kissing on the first date. Whereas like it's just a peck or something, or I don't know, maybe you guys want to like do French kiss or something, but I definitely would say that anyways, I'm just saying, I'm not gonna judge if you kiss on the first date. I think this entirely depends on the person and what you're feeling at that moment. But keep in mind that please have boundaries. So when you don't this goes both ways. If you clearly told him that, okay, I don't want to do this, then he should be able to respect you. Or maybe if he shows body language signs that he doesn't want to kiss on the first date, then don't respect his boundary. Don't be like, oh, come on, or something like that. Just be respectful of people's boundaries. That's all I can say. Alright, so that is it for today's first dates do's and don'ts. Let me know what other topics about relationships or self-development or any other things that you guys want me to talk about, and we'll be uncovering that. But basically this vibe is a little bit different because I kind of want to make this more like a girl-to-girl podcast relationship talk instead of my usual self-development talk, and that's why I'm so comfortable here, because I'm just leaning against the sofa. I got my green tea. Usually this would be matcha, but since it's night, I know I'm not supposed to drink tea at night, but it just is really nice. And I got my laptop over here and my list of questions. But anyways, I'm just saying, you can leave comments down below about what topics you want me to talk about, or just send me a DM. And thank you so much for watching this video. I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day, girls. Bye.